UA1AK1. This is the code for applicability of Part 107 to small unmanned aircraft operations. Or, in other words, what actually does Part 107 apply to? And we're going to find this in the regulations actually at the very beginning of Part 107. It's 107.1 says that Part 107 applies to the following. It says it applies to drone registration. It applies to remote pilot certification. It applies to the operation of a small unmanned aircraft system in the United States. It applies to flight over people as well. Now, there are some exceptions of things that would typically fall under that category, but still are not actually covered. And so they even address that in the regulation as well. And it says that Part 107 does not apply if it is an air carrier operation. It does not apply to recreational operations. Those are covered under well, that code that you see there on the screen. So again, if the flight is specifically and exclusively for hobby operations, then it does not fall under 107. But notice how it doesn't say it's not a non-commercial or anything like that. It says if it's recreational. So any flight that is not exclusively for recreation, again, regardless of what type of compensation you're getting, regardless of if you're getting paid or not, there are times that you may fly your drone that you're not flying it recreationally. Nevertheless, there's not an actual direct paycheck coming from it. It still doesn't change the fact that that would make it a Part 107 operation. So it's the drone operation does not fall under this if it's a recreational operation. Otherwise, it does. Additionally, another one would be if you are a holder of a 333 or 44807 exemption. Now, you may be wondering, what is that? And most of the time, when you see this, you're typically looking at like police departments, fire departments, other government entities that will do something for public safety use. And I'm not saying that that's an exclusive list of who is going to fall under there, but those are typically where you're going to find those. And what this means is that these people, these organizations, they have their own set of rules that they have kind of put together, their own procedures, their own this, that, and the other that covers all sorts of things, including pilot training, if possibly. Basically, the point being is that they can customize it. They submit that to the FAA reviews it, and if they say, yep, you can operate under this, they give them the green light, and then those holders, they can operate under that. I actually did some work a little while ago for a fire department that has one of these, and just to give you an example of some of the differences that they sometimes can do, is their pilots actually were not required to have a Part 107 certificate. Now, the pilots still had to be trained, and in their exemption, there's very specific training that they had to go through. And then as long after that was done, it allowed them to then operate under that exemption. Now, by the way, while they had that ability, just a side note, this fire department did require all of their pilots to have a Part 107 certificate. And the reason for that is because there were things that they can do under Part 107 that their exemption actually did not allow them to do. So, yeah, there was a way for them to have someone go through their own personal training program that was designed to allow their department to do what it needed to do. But there's other stuff that simply didn't fall under that. And if they didn't have a Part 107 certificate, even though it was legal under Part 107, then they couldn't jump over and do that. But anyway, that's a much larger explanation than you probably need for this review here of this particular code. Just know that that if an organization is working with a 333 or 44807 exemption, that those operations are not subject to Part 107. Okay, and then the last one is a UAS or a small UAS that has an airworthiness certificate, and that is also being conducted under Part 91 of the Federal Aviation Regulations.